Wisconsin, let's do this thing. Happy Friday, everybody. Thank you for stopping out to another episode of the podcast. We're coming at you as often as possible. We're spreading that knowledge about cannabis. We are not going away. When I talk about we're talking about, look at these folks here already on time. Boom, right away. Danny's in the house. We got Randy. Thank you for stopping by, gentlemen. I'm sure we got a few others that are just sitting down or getting a chance to tune in. Super appreciate y'all. Danny's running for president. We should have some signs out soon. Um, Politics, man, they're just crazy. I don't even know. Shout out to the folks who make this thing possible. Thank you to Higher Love. We switched. That's right. Oh my God, it's a zigzag on the screen from the camera. They're on this screen. Higher Love. Shout out to Higher Love. The promo code's right above us. Please make sure you give them a checkout for all your cannabis needs. They are legal. They are tested. They are good to go on the products. They got the deli style flower. They've got CBD for your dogs. I say that every night, but we would be lost without it. I mean, we could find it other places, but shout out to them for carrying their own line as well. But yeah, whatever you're looking for cannabis wise, please make sure you check them out all across the UP. Make sure you use that code, get that discount. We got Jill in the house. Thanks for stopping by, Jill. I do need to check my messages. Heather was saying something about an article. I just want to make sure if she got a chance to send that. Looks like she just read it. We might have an article to add to tonight's show. So I'll keep an eye out on that. Otherwise, I'm sure she'll be. Oh, there she is. We'll be listening. We're in the middle of an emergency harvest. Uh-oh. All right, Heather. Well, thanks for dropping by. Best of luck with all that. Please, just a reminder, guys, if you can smash that like button, hit that share when you can. Every little thing helps keeping this thing grow. Much appreciated that way. But without further ado, for the UP, I want to talk about our Wisconsin partner. That's going to be Ignite Dispensary, located all across the state of Wisconsin. They got a new drink lineup. I don't even think it's on their website yet. Super cool. Super cool. Oh, two Hermes. Uh-oh. Yeah, you got to get them out of there. They got this super new lineup. Oh, crap. I don't have it in front of me. I believe it's from Foundry Nation. It's their brand that they partner with. I think it's his wife. And they got these little retro wrestlers for the different flavors and stuff. Pretty cool. Really cool theme. Make sure you check those guys out there all across the state as well. So shout out to, again, our partners, Higher Love in the UP and then Ignite Dispensary here in Wisconsin. There wasn't too many articles that had popped up since we last talked. Also, I got some shelves up. What do you guys think of this? Look at it. So I want to get a little more like, just I feel like when people are doing some shows or they're doing their Zoom meetings, usually in the background, you can kind of see like stuff that talks about them. Now, I don't drive a tractor, but I'm in Wisconsin. We got lots of tractors, so I thought that was kind of fitting. And this is from, I had that when I was a kid. And then I had just found it when we were going through some of my old stuff that I'm going to be getting ready to bring out for Harper when she comes, which is next month. If you didn't know, if you've been watching the show, you know I talk about it a lot, but I'm really excited. We've also got, you can't see it up there, though. I got to figure out how to move it. That's the stunning glass, that gravity bong that I used just a couple times because it sends me to outer space, even on just a bowl. It's gnarly, bro. If you're looking to feel your cannabis, highly recommend Student Glass. This sign didn't fit, but I was last minute. I'm like, well, I gotta have something on this side. I found this sign. I was digging through stuff, but it doesn't fit, so it's turned sideways. Don't judge me. But if you got ideas, let me know. We gotta get some stuff on these shelves. We gotta fill it with Bobby Beans stuff. I don't know. Probably some snacks. I'm a snacky guy, if you can't tell. I'm trying to find my stash box that my lovely wife got me. I don't know where I put that at the moment because I carried everything downstairs and I got lots of boxes that I just started compiling. It's here somewhere. I will find it. 16 countries and 2 cities are putting cannabis questions on November ballot. Okay. That's awesome. It is crazy that we are not able to do that, but we are figuring it out because it is just way overdue. Oh, I didn't mean to have this up there yet. Sorry. Well, actually, now we're ready to go. So let's dive into the article I just took off of there. And let me know what you say. Oh, counties. Okay, that makes sense. Let me know what you think about this one. You probably got a chance to read the headline. So a Minnesota lawmaker worked to pass cannabis law while her partner started a cannabis business. Apparently, this has sparked some controversy over in our neighboring state of Minnesota. Let's check this out. Let's see what your guys' thoughts are. I mean, well, let's get some details, right? It sounds sus, but it also sounds like, man, if that's just how it works out, I mean, let's see what we got here. Let's dig into it. Like I say, that's a lot of countries, but counties that makes sense. You're good, Heather. Though you got some stuff going on there, so no worries. All right, so let's check this out. We got to move. Oh man, we got all kinds of stuff around here. What's that? Look at this. Don't look at that. You're not supposed to see this. Just moving, setting up. All right, chill, chill. We're here. We're here. So State Representative Jessica Hansen out of Burnsville negotiated a sweeping set of cannabis policy changes during the closing weeks of last year's legislative session. This is an article from the Minnesota Star Tribune. Shout out to them for putting this together. Her partner registered a new cannabis called Weed Girl. First of all, let's look into the name of the business. Great name, simple, not too long, not too drawn out, and gets right to the thing, man. Weed Girl. That's pretty dope. I like that name. Kudos. Wow, this pink shirt. Usually, like people are like, "Oh, pink makes you whatever." I'm just like, "Whatever." I ain't got time to follow that. But man, my face really looks pink now. I think it's the shirt. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just me on my end. Always something here on the podcast with Bobby Beans. We're always jostling things around and trying to confuse you because I'm trying to camouflage in with my shirt. State business records show Joseph Nicholson, whom the two-term lawmaker described as her life partner, registered Weed Girl LLC on May 3rd. Wait now. Joseph Nicholson, he registered Weed Girl. While the legislative session was still underway. That same month, Hansen played a key role in pushing a cannabis omnibus bill across the finish line. She probably had pretty good motive. It says she was one of the two House sponsors of the bill and served on the conference committee that fine-tuned the legislation before the final version passed. And she voted in favor, of course. Hansen said she was not employed by Weed Girl during the session. She was working in her corporate healthcare job at the time. Yeah, you better cover your tracks, girl. Weed Girl. Earlier this month, Hansen posted to her personal Facebook account an announcement for Weed Girl, inviting friends who want to help with our business stuff that we talked about, end of quote, to reach out. Okay. She has previously referred to herself at public events as a Weed Girl. In July of 23, 2 months after Minnesota lawmakers voted to legalize adult responsible use, Hansen registered a business called the Weed Girl LLC, according to state records. That company is no longer active, she said. Oh, that was the Weed Girl LLC. And now there is a business called Weed Girl. Okay. Something going on here, folks. Here's a quote from her. At the time I registered the Weed Girl LLC, thought I could start a business by myself, but quickly learned that being a business owner was not in my cards, given everything else on my plate at the time. Hansen told the Star Tribune in a text exchange. She said that her involvement in the new Weed Girl LLC is limited. She acknowledged working there, but said she isn't an owner or involved in day-to-day operations or decision-making. Weed Girl and its parents' company, United Highs, are both 100% owned by Nicholson, Hansen said, which is her partner. But I think the way that they're wording partner, they're not married. So they could also be, maybe there's a law that says you can't be married to somebody who runs a business that you're trying to pass legislation for, but they're not married, folks. Maybe that's what I'm picking up here. Sounds like they might have been planning this for a while. Bobby Bean's the detective. It's important for me to understand what business is like. Weed Girl will operate in the low-dose hemp-derived market, Hansen said. Yeah, because there's less regulation, Miss Hansen. She said she has consulted with Minnesota House legal staff and will note any income she receives from the business on her financial disclosure. Dan says is Manitowoc. I don't believe they're on the list, my man. I think we're all kind of stuck in Wisconsin here in the they've taken basically a pulse when they put it on. A few counties have put it out there in the past couple of years, but that wasn't to actually pass it. That was essentially to get the pulse, like, do people support it? And everywhere it's been, it has gotten a majority support. So what we're trying to do here, bud, is we know there's enough people, enough of us voters, that it should be legal. and we're just trying to get that voice together and get that ball in their court because they ain't figuring it out. So this guy here, Schultz, he says this is a conflict of interest going forward. I don't think she can offer legislation related to cannabis. She can't be a chair of any committee where the legislation comes from, and I think she has to recuse herself from voting. So yeah, it looks like they are looking into this. If a situation or of actual or perceived conflict arises about a future bill and my personal life, both my private and public comments and decisions will address them accordingly at that time, she says. So this would be something to keep an eye on. I would think this is going to be some stuff you would see in Wisconsin. Politicians seem to have a way to not get caught doing this kind of stuff. This lady, it's her, significant other, but typically, you get some donations, and then as like if you're a Wisconsin politician right now, all of a sudden you start getting a bunch of donations to your PAC and all this stuff that, hey, let's legalize. Well, if you were shisty, like some politicians, you would say, I need to find somebody in this business because it's going to start booming in Wisconsin and I can invest some money and make a lot of money. And this lady's doing it with her life partner, who it sounds like she lives with, and all this. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. It's always hard to judge people's interests, but we got something going on in our neighboring state. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. We'll have to keep an eye on things over there. This was also interesting, another clash of politicians. So Missouri had announced that they were going to put a ban on hemp THC products, and it made its way through and it got to the governor's desk, I believe it was. So it went through its battles and it passed them all. Gets to the governor's desk. My understanding is this guy didn't sign it because the Secretary of State didn't endorse him, so then he didn't get reelected or something. Let's dive into this. We got all kinds of drama out there in the political world where things are legal. But let's see what we got going down here in Missouri. We've got, the governor's ban on intoxicating hemp products hit a delay after Missouri Secretary of State rejected the emergency rules detailing how it would have been enforced. Okay, I might have mixed that up. This is the Secretary of State, it sounds like, is holding it up. Let's see. Governor Mike Parsons signed an executive order earlier this month to remove all hemp-derived THC edibles and beverages from store shelves and threatening penalties to any establishment with a Missouri liquor license or that sells foods products for selling them. It was supposed to take effect September 1st, pending Ashcroft's approval of the emergency rules, and now that will likely be delayed until for at least 6 months, Parsons said in a strongly worded letter to Ashcroft on Thursday. Oh boy. They got them emails going. They got them mean emails going. When you're like you can't even spell it right because you're hitting so many buttons because you're taking out that frustration. We got some of that going on in Missouri. Let's see. He says, as best I can tell, you denied this emergency rulemaking because you believe hurt feelings are more important than protecting children, Parsons said. The governor seemed to be implying the decision was inspired by Parsons' support for another candidate besides Ashcroft in the GOP primary. That's ballsy. That's ballsy. Ashcroft finished third in the primary with Parsons' pick, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, winning the nomination. So now he's saying, hey, man, I remember what you did. I ain't passing your shit. This is what I'm getting here. This is a personal matter for thousands of parents and grandparents across the state, and denying the rulemaking is your attempt at retribution for my endorsement of another candidate. That's what Parsons said. I have a feeling he was pointing his finger like that, too. Safety of kids is not a political issue. I'm disgusted that you are making this one. Looks like the Independent reached out. The spokesman for Ashcroft said the rules were rejected because they didn't meet the state law's criteria, but he couldn't say exactly why. I call bullshit without even seeing it because I swear this happens all the time. No, we can't do that. Nope. Why? I don't even have time to talk about it. Gotta go. What do you mean you can't say why? Or you don't. This sounds fishy as hell. This is just crazy. It doesn't meet the rules. That's why I'm not signing. Okay, what rule doesn't it meet? Next question. How are you in office? Secretary Ashcroft has the discretion to determine what constitutes an emergency rule, and there's guidelines and statute that dictate that, Cheney said. If Ashcroft would have approved the emergency rules, they would have been implemented immediately since there would be no public comment period. Okay. However, the new rules will have to go through the standard rules procedure, which will take several months. Opens it up for the 30 to 60 day comment period where individuals on both sides can comment on the rules, so on and so forth. So we got a little more drama with cannabis and politicians. Again, this is down in Missouri. We've seen a lot of states start implementing bans on hemp-derived cannabinoids, so something we will definitely be keeping an eye on out there. Missouri, they're tussling down there in the Show Me State. All right, next up, we've got the New York governor is touting a smoking hot cannabis sales with all-time high of $500 million in purchase. It's been a minute since I've seen news coming out of New York that says a positive light. They've been having some issues with a lot of illegal stores. I'm going to assume there's a lot of people that are trying to do the THCA and claim it's hemp, which should be legal because of the Farm Bill. And then now that you get the Cannabis Council, that is checking in on cannabis companies, they're going, whoa, this shit's wrong. What are you doing out here? So once we got an article passed around here, this is from Marijuana Moments about anything about sales or anything. So we should dive into this, see what they got going on. Jill says that is just stupid. Right, Jill? I don't know what they're doing over there. They are soap opera. I think that's what they're working on in some of these states. New York's governor is touting the state's smoking hot sales numbers as it reaches an all-time high of over $500 million in legal cannabis purchases since adult use retailers launched in late 2022. So they had a meeting. It was the State Cannabis Advisory Board. Again, it's hard to keep up with all these states because they're all named something different, but it has cannabis in it usually. Excuse me. But so they've got policy director gave an update on the cannabis sales, knowing New York has seen about $370 million in purchases so far this year. That's a lot of cash, folks. That is a booming economy, something we could use here in Wisconsin. How about Ohio, right? Exactly. I think they were at 23 million this month so far with medical and adult responsible use, and that was a few days back. That's 2.3 million in excess tax in 2 weeks for your state to reinvest into your communities. At the meeting, smoking hot is right, said the governor, referring to New York Post article on the sales figure. I'm sure that was a fun headline they got to post. She says here, thanks to our efforts to shut down illicit storefronts and support our legal dispensaries, New York's legal cannabis industry is reaching an all-time high. What does Dennis say here? The stores in NY are not selling THCA. They're just selling weed with a license or state permit. No, I'm talking the ones that they're shutting down, though. Those are even ones that had license or state permit. Is that what you're saying? I'm sorry, but I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Excuse me. Oh, without a license or state permit. Gotcha. Interesting. No, you're good. You're good. The fact that each month we've seen kind of these sales continue to grow by leaps and bounds have been a heartening sign of the continued transition we see of consumers into the legal market, he said. So, yeah, they're attributing the growth, at least in part, to their efforts to stamp out illicit operators and expand the licensed marketplace. Looks like officials have conceded that the initial rollout was bumpy. Yeah, you could say that, New York, with licensing delays amid litigation. It looks like they're now enthusiastic about the progress they've made so far this year. If you guys remember, we pulled up the map a while back of dispensaries in New York. It's what you'd expect. They are everywhere when it comes to that. They said in June that the state's escalated enforcement actions against illicit shops is resulting in a significant increase in legal sales at licensed retailers. The governor made comments amid criticism from equity-focused activists over what they say is a corporate takeover of the cannabis market, citing reporting about the administration dismissing concerns from state officials about a predatory private equity loan deal. I know South Dakota is still having issues with their medical, but then you got the THCA shops that are, I don't know that you could prove they're outselling them, but that's essentially what the medical folks are trying to say out in South Dakota. I know I saw a couple articles this week, some cries over there, going out to the council there in San Diego. What are you smoking, Bob? Nothing yet, but it seems like it. That would be South Dakota, not San Diego. Hey, they both got SD, right? Like that's SD card. That's how my brain works, guys. ADHD is crazy. To that end, there has been criticism of the governors. I was seeing of Chris Alexander, of the executive director, that was of the board member of their cannabis council, if you will. In an attempt to rein in unlicensed sales, the governor in February called on big tech companies such as Google and Meta to do the right thing by taking steps to stop promoting illicit shops, which have proliferated across the state. And then they rolled out a broad plan to encourage environmental sustainability, set energy use standards, that kind of stuff. In June, state regulators also formally approved rules to allow adults 21 and older to grow their own plants for personal use. And then it looks like a New York lawmaker also introduced a bill in June to legalize psilocybin for adults. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Then it says THCA isn't illegal. Anything over 0.3% Delta 9 is. That is the law. I'm so confused by the stance taken on this toxic topic here on this podcast. Please explain if you could. So, Dennis, I like to shoot straight. So, regardless of what all I got going on with sponsors, that kind of stuff, to keep this thing rolling, I try to do two things. That is unite people. So just me personally, it drives me nuts when my friends, whether they lean left or right and they make fun of the other side, drives me nuts. So that's one thing, is I try to look at things that way, but then I also just got to keep it real. And I'll be honest with you, man. So I was in the hemp industry here in Wisconsin. I oversaw 5 stores as a regional manager. Sales were pretty good. People started figuring out there was some good Delta 8. We figured out we could do Delta 9 in edible form, so on and so forth. Then THCA came out. Well, sales were booming. We were amazed because I remember asking somebody who would have the final say as to, so you're telling me this right here is hemp. When I smoke it, it's marijuana. And then when I stop smoking it, it's hemp. This is how I'm being told THCA works. Yeah, exactly. I was like, dude, this is awesome. So for a while, I go with that. Sales are booming. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is cool. This is how this works. A couple interesting things that I found out. And then I have a hard time being behind the counter and saying, oh, yeah, no, this is legal. Here's how it works. Da, da, da. These things that I've been taught or learned on my own to say, yeah, this is how it's legal. Once I start, if I got one little thing like, well, wait a second, that's not a huge deal, I might look into it, whatever. But when it's like, boom, 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 I was not comfortable with it anymore. And I'll just be honest as to why. One, if you grow hemp, you can grow hemp in Wisconsin. Let's take it back a notch. You can grow hemp in Wisconsin. Okay. The USDA is the one who's in charge of giving you your license to grow hemp. Okay. They are the ones who come out and check to make sure you're growing hemp, right? They do one test, and they do it, I think it's 4 weeks before harvest or so. Okay. The USDA does not approve THCA grows. So now as a farmer, if I say I'm growing hemp, you send it out to get to almost any cannabis you grow. Even if I'm in Michigan growing legal cannabis that gets you really high, that I'm growing. If people were to come take a sample 4 weeks before I harvest, it's going to come back as hemp. If you've grown before, Heather's in here. Heather will tell you, and you could do this yourself. If you go to Michigan or you go to any legal state and you get the most potent flower you can find, if you eat it raw, Do you get high? No, you don't. Right? And especially early on, and it's 4 weeks before it's harvested, there's even less THCA. Right? It's when you chop the plant 4 weeks later, and then you dry it. You gotta dry out the plant. That's when the conversion to Delta 9 THC comes into effect. Nobody tests the hemp. They don't test other than 4 weeks before harvest. But even if you're in Michigan, their flower is going to test as hemp if you tested how they are testing THCA flower. But if you are growing THCA flower and the USDA asks you if you're growing THCA flower, they're going to tell you can't do that. It sounds like my understanding at the time was instead of enforcing that would be left up to the DEA. And if you saw, the DEA came out a couple months ago, THCA is the same as Delta 9, according to the DEA. Essentially, what's happening is just like they've always done with cannabis. With the Farm Bill, they shot themselves in the foot. The politicians who are anti-cannabis, because they thought they were just opening the door to CBD. The people who helped write that bill were pretty smart. Shout out to my guy, you know who you are, here in Wisconsin. When it comes to how it's tested, the definition, again, the way it's written in Wisconsin and the way it's tested, you could be growing what they're growing up there, and you could just say, no, I'm growing CBD. Promise. Here, test it. Cool. And then in 4 weeks, you harvest it for 2 weeks for it to dry out. Also, when it dries out, your weight changes. Your 3%, it should be tested in the flower state the way you smoke it, because otherwise there's more water in when you send it out for testing 4 weeks while it's growing, it's full of water. Yeah, your number's going to be low on everything. Tested for water, it's going to be way high compared to when you smoke it. Right? Now you also got to look at there's no regulation. And folks, this is why I started this movement, because all of a sudden this THCA was great. Bonuses are going up. So people are coming through the door. We're selling out of stuff. Like, hey, we're creating a list. We'll let you know when the stuff comes in. And next thing you know, I'm like, this is no different than being on the street corner, because there are businesses. How do I word? There's nothing stopping people. You could open a business tomorrow. I made this LLC. I had a lady help me, so it took me like a week. But I need somebody in person when it comes to checking boxes and filling out forms. But you could go online, start a business. Wouldn't take you very long. You just got to get a business sales tax use license. You can start selling hemp in Wisconsin. So if you are a middleman, if you don't grow it and sell it, if you're a middleman, you could, in theory, buy stuff off the street. You could buy, you could go to Cali. You could buy a U-Haul worth of weed, legal weed, or, potent weed, not hemp, weed. You could come back to Wisconsin. The only thing right now, if I were to open a store, the only thing that somebody might come in and check to say, hey, is that hemp or is that weed? Because it's so hard to tell. They're going to ask for my paperwork, the COA. The COA tells you what that is, right? Have you seen some of these COAs out there? You don't have to have a Photoshop degree to know some of these look very sketch. Even some that look really good. If that truck that I go to Cali and buy 50 pounds of weed, if I could get on a computer and in 12 minutes I can make a PDF that says, I bought this from Joe's CBD. This is 50 pounds of hemp. Here's how much I paid for it. Cool. Now I make a COA. So yeah, it's got less than 0.3 Delta 9. Yep. It's got 0.27. THCA content, very high because that's legal. And then now people know it's good. All right, print that out. Now that 50 pounds of weed you bought in California, you start driving to Wisconsin. Now, if you're in California, you might get stopped, and they might test the weed. In Wisconsin, if you made it over the Wisconsin border, who's going to check your weed? The police ain't going to send it out. If they see 50 pounds of weed, but you got paperwork that says it's hemp, okay, are they going to risk a lawsuit because it happened a couple times with Delta 8, where people had legal Delta 8 CBD flower. Cops pull them over. Oh, that's weed. You're going to jail. It happened a lot in the beginning. They go to jail, and then all of a sudden, 3-4 months later, when the test comes back, because the guy's like, no, it's Delta 8, I swear. What are you talking about? Then the test comes back. Oh, shit, we just had a guy in jail for 3 months. Oh, God. Lawsuits. In Wisconsin, I don't know the last time I heard of a shop getting checked, especially the product. They might stop in, look at your stuff. Oh, you guys got COAs for this? I could see that. But even that, most of your COAs out there, they just show most COAs in Wisconsin and even in probably some legal states are not COA. They're not COAs. They're potency tests. You look at a lot of COAs and it just says the cannabinoids, CBD, THC, THCA, minor Delta 8. Okay, what about pesticides? What about, it's not a full COA. Mold. What about mold? Nobody tests for mold around here. It is the Wild West. You could have the dankest flower in the world. As long as you got that printout that says it's hemp, which it's not like it has to come from, the DEA and have a stamp that only the DEA can give you. No, anybody can. We could open one tomorrow and start testing hemp. It's crazy. I did not feel comfortable in that industry anymore myself. The good news is there are a few places, see Ignite Dispensary, Waldo Hemp Works. There's places that make sure that the chain of custody is trackable, right? And you can see the farm it came from, and it goes through the process. There's still some good THCA out there that's legal, that's legit. But most stuff, don't even get me going on edibles. Delta 9 hemp-derived edibles. Perfect example, Minnesota, right? They first went legal with, or they put a limit on, there's just so much to this. I don't even know how to take this to the next step. But what it comes down to is, if you got a gummy and it's got 500 milligrams of Delta 9, that would be illegal in Wisconsin, unless you have a piece of paper that anybody can make that says it is 500 milligrams of hemp-derived Delta 9. Okay? Again, anybody can make that. And two, you can't tell the difference in testing if that Delta 9 came from hemp or weed. So, in theory, I could go to California, buy 50 pounds of Delta 9 distillate, the straight good shit that you put in the gummies, you put in the cookies, whatever. I can't come to Wisconsin with that because that's illegal. But, yep, Bob's Bargain Bins. Oh, wait, now we need a COA quick, too. I'll move that over here. No, definitely not. It's hemp-derived, guys. Got it, hemp-derived. Cool. Now I come to Wisconsin. A, who's going to check me? And B, if they do, hey, you want to know what this is? It's right here. It's right here on this paper. And then they look at this. First of all, they're not going to know who a legit place to get tested is, because there's 4 billion places you can get your product tested. Right? And then, especially with edibles, there's a lot of folks. If you buy an edible that doesn't have an expiration date on it, what is that? I see a lot of edibles out there, no expiration dates. I mean, maybe move through but still, there should be expiration dates. And then also, you'll get your little COA on the edible, you scan it. Oh, here's the COA. Yeah, no, this is legit. See, everything's there. If you check out that COA and all it says that's in there is Delta 9, that's scary. Because the plant has a lot of other cannabinoids. CBD, CBG, CBA. There should be a bunch of other little stuff in there that the plant naturally makes. That, and if you look at when the sample was sent in, it's usually a year or two ago. So it's not even the same batch. Probably 90 out of 100 times, it's not the same batch. So, yeah, we sent some gummies out to get tested. Cool. Even if they didn't test good, like they tested bad, no, that doesn't get reported to anybody. Me as the business owner, that test comes back. Hey, whoa, those are low or those are way high. That's cool. I just throw that away. I change my recipe. I send more out. That's all I got to do. It's mind-blowing. Peter Swan. Hey, Petey's in here. Peter Swan, Green Swan Hemp Company. This guy gets it. I love Pete. Here's Pete. Here's a little picture. I love Pete. I advocate for Pete. Me and Pete gets it. I knew that from the day I sat down, talked to him. He gets it. His products, he doesn't care about which product gets me the most money. Go look at this. This isn't staged. Go look at his Green Swan Hemp Company. That they're his business, and you can see where he's getting new products in, and it's because they have more testing. That's what Pete looks for. Well, hang on. Where did this really come from? How was it really made? Because if I wanted to, I could just, you can white label, people make brownies in their house, label it as hemp-derived Delta-9, even though it's not. I can just go to Michigan, buy a ton of flour, decarb it, make edibles, and I can sell them and call them hemp brownies. They're going to mess people up. People are going to love it. I got my little COA. It took me 10 minutes to make. I can make banger amount of money. And some people are. But some people are doing it the right way. And when I wasn't comfortable telling the people underneath me, they're coming to me, the store managers, the bud tenders, hey, how does this? If I'm not comfortable, I can't sleep at night. I have a conscience. I didn't sign up for this. Oh man, I gotta catch up on some comments. I'm so sorry. Ooh, that was a rant. Did I get my point across, Dennis? Do you kind of understand where I'm at? Bobby's the best. Thank you, Heather. I love that blanket you made. It's I got it on the chair in the nursery. Yeah. Heather's awesome. We got Jason in the house. What's up, my man? Bobby for president. No. Way too much. Took 60 pages to find D9 as a controlled substance. Excluding everything. I have a license in Wisconsin growing in a commercial environment. Just passed another test. The government took. I guess, Dennis, I would, if you're down, let's chop it up, man. Let's look at it. Let's see how you're doing this. I would definitely be down. Upside down, dry. Yes, drying. There you go. I called your state capital and said Oregon has a profitable program. They called back and said they would look into it. Hey, Deborah, appreciate that. Thank you. USDA license too, right? Cops won't do anything. Used to be you had the Wisconsin hemp producer license and a processor license. USDA did away with that. Yep. No, as long as the percentage of Delta-9 is less than that is the law on edibles. Badger Labs in Stevens Point is a DOJ lab. They do all my tests. What's the name of your business? Let's pull up a COA. Because, again, that's great. I understand the dry weight basis. You can get what you want to get into an edible, and it can be effective. And there are people who are doing it right, which it sounds like you are. So kudos to you with hemp-derived Delta-9. My question to people who do that is, do you see the process of how it is made? Or do you get the distillate that is available everywhere, very cheap, because there's so many cheap ways to make it? And then there's no regulation, there's no testing. Like, I could do the most half-assed way, and if it tests out, it doesn't matter what else is in there. Could be good for you, could be bad for you. Get where I'm going? So, but there are people doing it the right way. Carbon cannabis. You should see the setup it takes to do that stuff. It's crazy. Like, I felt like Willy Wonka, like this tank and the CO2. Yeah. I mean, it's some crazy. But if I'm just in it for the money, there's no regulation watching me, folks. None. If I'm in it for the money, I set all that up. Great. I'm doing a great job. I'm doing it the right way. But then I get downwind of, shit, I can get a kilo of distillate for $200 and it's costing me $1,200 to make it. Let me get that. Let me start pumping that shit in. I don't care what's in it. Okay, so that's the first problem. And then also, again, the second problem is even if you're the edibles, right? They don't tell you if it's hemp derived that's in your product when they test it, or if it's not hemp derived. Cops are always trying to find a way to pull people over. I wish there's more regulation. Honestly, there isn't even an age law, right? It's crazy. Badger Labs is decent. Do they do mold in that though? I've seen a couple of their tests for potency. I didn't know if they did that. That's why the more milligram, the heavier and bigger they get. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I've also scanned QR codes from Oregon, Washington, and Michigan that come back sketch as hell, right? I love when they're black and white and fuzzy. Like you couldn't even get a colored version going here, folks. And the companies that say Delta 9 gummies, but really have D8. Exactly. Yes. Ton of that. They say it's D9, and they'll go 20 milligrams of D9, and they'll just pump it full of 40 milligrams of D8 because now nobody can move D8, and there's companies that are sitting on a shit ton of that. And guess what? Nobody's going to check it. And if it affects you the same way as a user, Sassy Pants, I'm late, going to rewind. Yes, this is a good one, Sass. Dennis, so your thoughts on an unregulated isomerization is what then? Sketch as hell. Very sketch. Keep preaching. Been walking around all day with my... Yeah, let's go, buddy. Let's go. Happy to make it for you. Yes, Heather, I love it. Did you find that article? Yeah, if you could message it to me, that'd be great. I've seen brands that are straight up putting THC isolate into a jar, throwing terps in it, and go, oh, yeah, tons of that. Yeah, and then it's, here's a lineup of 50, all like the greatest of the greats. Live rosin right here today. Yeah, it's just THCA, and you're putting terps. Where do them terps come from? Where your terps get tested? Does anyone test for terps? Just a question. Think you have to pay more for a full panel test, right? This right here. And again, if you're doing it right, kudos, and that's awesome. But I get taking some shortcuts. I get that. Or I get, we've got this process down, but still you're giving something to people to ingest. That's how I looked at my job. I have thousands of customers that are buying this product that I am kind of feeding people to sell, essentially. But if I can't check it, I can't see how it's made. I can't see what's actually in it. Heavy metals testing. You do that? Edibles, smokables. I mean, most people they'll do a test of this here and a test of that in another year and a test of that in another year. When you go through so much of it, but isn't it more cost effective if you only test it once a year and then nobody's checking in on you? So why would you do it more? You feel like it's good. And I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. But what concerns me is those people in between who are bringing this product to you because now they're in the same boat as you, which is, well, shit, I really want to make sure this is the cleanest product, but this is getting expensive, man. I know it's good. I don't need to test it. I'll just tell them I tested it. There's no regulation. I'm still technically doing the right thing. About $800 for a full panel plus $80 for a D9 vertical integration fixes all your concerns with a splash of simple testing. So is that what, do you do that for all your batches? Because again, in a legal market, you would have to. And also, where's your D9 come from? Your D9 distillate. Do you see it convert it? Waldo says, Peter Swan, a certain large wholesaler and the dispensary near me does this. I continue to hear poor feedback. It's sad, really. Overpriced, inconsistent, anything to make a buck. It is. It's frustrating. Dennis says, absolutely. I forget what I'm asking you, Dennis. I'm so sorry. We were asking, I don't know. That's my whole, like, I just sat for a couple of days really thinking about that. And I'm just like, I love being in the cannabis industry, but I also want to be educating and knowing for sure what I'm educating about. I thought I'd be able to kind of find somebody that was pushing for legalization or like a group that I could like, volunteer or do that kind of thing. And in Wisconsin, like we're so far behind. Like most of the politicians that I meet with, they're like, no one's ever stopped in to talk to us about cannabis. I'm like, what? There's, it's just missing. So now being able to just be an educator about this wonderful freaking plant. This is my calling. I mean, I love sales. I love competition, that kind of thing. But unfortunately, in Wisconsin, the way it's set up, I wasn't comfortable doing it. Again, there are people doing it the right way, Dennis. I'm hoping that's you. There's a very short list of people who are doing it the right way. But what's hurting you too, Dennis, is gas stations, and then probably 75% of the other people that are in this business in Wisconsin, they don't give a flying fuck at all. They're just cha-ching, let's open another store. Cha-ching, let's keep it rolling. Let's just keep making money. You see how much if we open another store we can make? We can ship online. It's THCA. We can ship it to your house. It's not Delta 9. How do they know? They just check the paperwork. They don't test it. Well, I'm sure it could happen, but it's crazy. Pete says, gives the industry a black eye and what we are trying to do. Yes, exactly. And that's where, so when 75% of the people are just trying to make cha-ching up the yingus and not being consistent with their products and not caring about the quality and not caring about the purity, that hurts cannabis in the long run. Because now you got people that stop in and they try Delta 9. Delta 8 would be the perfect example. Talk about some bunky bunk. Sometimes it'll get you real messed up. Sometimes it doesn't. Why? Because there's even more not knowing of, Delta 8, that HHC, all this stuff, like, and you want to be on the competitive edge with it, right? And you want to be at the forefront. You don't want to be caught in the dust. But at the same time, when we're talking about people's health, unless I could actually see a scientist making it and see it getting tested for all this crap in each batch, I'm not comfortable with it. I'm just not. And then now you got people saying like, oh, that don't work. Oh yeah, I tried that stuff in Wisconsin. It don't work. Yeah, it's because half the people don't know what it does. Gas station, how are you selling anything that you don't know what it does when it intoxicates you? I see it all the time. People walking in because there's some cool packaging right by the checkout. They're getting more creative. I see THCA gummies now. Which if they were, you wouldn't get high because THCA has to be lit on fire. But the packaging is cool. They put it on sale, whatever. This is definitely a product that shouldn't just be sold because it makes money. But in Wisconsin, it is. It's sold everywhere. Waldo says, I do my damn hardest to help people every day, people with real problems, and they want something local and available and legal. Right now, hemp is the answer until we legalize. But like Voss is reelected. Yeah, I didn't know. Did you know Voss won? Somebody told me Voss won by only like 200 votes. I think if we help push the other candidate, I think there's got to be a Democrat running there. I'm like, let's go. But also, I'm hoping the House could flip. That would be just get him out of there as the speaker, not caring about the people, right? Dennis says, what's hurting anyone is people like me. Bringing clean and far superior products to the market educates the consumer. More people need to jump on board this mission. Again, yes and no. I mean, yes, you're doing the right thing, but THCA, it's not legal. Let's take that back. It's legal how they wrote it. I guess I would want to know where you get your flower from. We can talk about that offline. As far as like me to endorse personally, that's what I like to do. Stop into shops, see how they're doing. Been to Waldo, and just understand. Like you could definitely be somebody who's doing this the right way. But I've just learned there's so many. Like I don't mean to question you at all. It's just I've run into so many things where it's we're legit, and then the first like hard piece of proof you're looking for. Well, not today, that type of thing. I grow my own flower, boss. Attaboy. THCA, if you don't mind me asking. Some people go, tested by Dustin. Let's go. USDA Dusty. Shout out to Dusty. He's awesome. Dustin's the man. It's hard to trust. Exactly. That's what it comes down to. Some people go and buy on the black market for cannabis, says Jill. Yep. I know some people, some pretty big outfit. Yeah, well, we'll leave that where that is for now. I probably got myself in enough things going off here, but appreciate everybody swinging out tonight. Wow, I thought this was going to be a short podcast, and then we kind of chop it up. But that's what I do this podcast for, though, folks, is for people to come in and ask questions, and we try to educate each other and just always be a resource, right? It's hard, especially on Facebook, when we type stuff, they really like to censor what we can type. But that's where I figured the podcast, people drop by, we can get this figured out. So Dustin says me as well, right? No, dude, it definitely sounds like you could definitely be one of the good guys. And I would love to chop it up with you. Always down to talk cannabis. Excuse me. My parents are here. They're never stopping. They live up north. So I'm going to get running out of here, folks. Hope everyone has a great evening. We will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Be smart, be safe, and stay educated. All right, guys. Have a good night.